Welcome back. We've got a fantastic podcast for you today. We try to make every podcast a little bit more fantastic-er than the one yesterday. But the topic today is mastering the new normal, essential tips for success after the big shift. And we're going to really drill down on that. But before we do, Julie and I were just having a conversation about ethical real estate professional. And as some of you know, most of you know who listen every day, that we're going to be releasing a new designation, which we think, frankly, is going to really revolutionize the real estate industry. And here's what I mean. Now, revolutionize from a coaching and training perspective. Ethical real estate professional is going to strive to be a new level of essentially, let me call it what it is, a designation in the real estate industry. It's going to be something that's going to reset the bar for the expectations for agents, but also what consumers will expect from agents. No, it's not replacing NAR or anything that lofty. What it is, it's going to be basically a very high-end community. And that community is going to focus on initially buyer agency. Now, let me break this down. The overall theme of the organization is going to be what I just described. It's going to be a very high-end, prestigious organization to belong to. And within the organization, there's going to be different designations. So it's going to be ethical real estate professional, buyer agency. There's going to be ethical real estate professional seller specialist, ethical real estate professional luxury. You all will understand more when we are rolling this out. But the first program obviously is going to be focused on buyers because that's where all the fear and loathing is right now.
Stress, yes.
And stress, and that's where the need is mostly. But here's what's really exciting. Our mission, now Julie and I have been coaching and training agents for decades, and we know that it's one thing to say you want coaching and training. It's another thing to sign up for coaching and training, but yet it's another thing to actually do anything with the coaching and training that you've received. And we've forever wanted to figure out a way to bridge that gap. So you sign up for coaching and training, you are actually participating, but now you're actually using at the highest level the information that you paid for. And it's almost been impossible because you can coach and train someone I would say probably it's the 1% of agents that actually apply the information as we coach them to do it at the highest level, on that they don't try to change the scripts. They don't try to change the presentations. They actually do things consistently. They follow the 7-step listing process and the 5-step buyer process. They actually do things at a higher level. And there's really, I don't think, any real way of changing that behavior because you guys are all remote. Coaching and training clients it's all done virtually, and we're not there to, slap you with a ruler if all of a sudden you stop following the process, right? It just doesn't work that way. You're all adults. But we could create a presentation, and I want you to imagine this. You're going to be sitting in front of a buyer. You're trying to compete for that buyer. In other words, and let's say that buyer is a dream buyer. Pre-qualified, pre-approved, super nice people, realistic expectations. They're all cash. Let's even make it better. And they are high-end for your marketplace. So I'm just going to throw out a number. Let's just say $5 million. Now, I know some of our coaching clients, their high-end is like twice that, but that's okay. So let's stick with $5 million. Dream buyers, you are competing in a literal sense to get that buyer's business with 3 or 4 other really top producing agents. You guys all have the same bona fides. You all have similar resumes. You all have similar, okay, I have off markets, you have off markets. Okay, you've sold a lot of luxury homes, I've sold a lot of luxury homes. Oh, you've got a dog, I've got a dog, right? You grew up in the community, I grew up in the community. There's nothing really to ultimately differentiate you. Oh, and by the way, this is not a referral. You are not buying this lead. This is just straight up, you're having to compete for this lead. You get it? This is the new reality that most of you are going to be experiencing. And unfortunately, Julie and I have been paying attention to the feedback that's happening in the marketplace. A lot of agents are, really going down in flames because they don't know how to really compete. Even for their existing their existing clients, they don't know what to say or how to say it. All right, so these are the challenges that the industry has right now. The industry is waking up to realize that there's a massive skills gap, especially on the buyer side of the transaction. So what we're going to do, what we have done, and what I have to tell you I'm bonkers excited about, is we've got this whole ethical real estate professional buyers agency program. And what it is, the heart of it is going to be a presentation. The presentation itself is going to be delivered in a virtual folder or an actual folder. It's difficult for me to describe what it looks like, but basically when you open the folder, each side of the folder is a waterfall of different pages. It's not something that's bound together. It's something that basically you'll open it and you'll see all the different aspects of the, why that they're going to want to work with you. And that's really what this is. So the folder itself, the ethical real estate professional presentation, is its whole purpose and intent is to be your silent salesperson, is to pre-sell that prospective buyer into why they want to work exclusively with you. Now, those of you who have been in Premier Coaching for a long time, this is very similar to our pre-listing pack that we created for all of you for when going after listings. And by the way, we are going to be updating the listing product next along the same avenue of what we've done for the buyer product. So what I'm talking about now is going to apply to the seller side, I'd say probably later this year. But back to the Ethical Real Estate Professional exclusive buyer agency program. Now, each of these pages is going to be essentially explaining why they're going to want to work with you in great detail. But embedded into this content are the unique selling propositions, the actual things that make you unique. And I'm not going to spoil it by telling you what any of them are, but there's 6 very specific, unique reasons why someone's going to want to work with an ethical real estate professional exclusive buyer agent. And that's what you will be. You're not just going to be a buyer agent at Bob's Real Estate. You're going to be an ethical real estate professional exclusive buyer agency. And these are the USPs, unique selling propositions, why you're going to want to work with me. And these are going to be things that are going to be very powerful that your competitors, unless they're also ERP agents, aren't going to be able to compete with. And you're going to all of a sudden go from just being someone that's offering essentially what everyone else is offering, essentially fungible, and you're going to go to somebody who's actually going to be able to stand above the crowd and really prove your value to the point where there's going to be no question that they're going to want to work exclusively with you. We're going for an absolute knockout punch with this product. We want to make it so that when you're standing in front of prospective clients and you're trying to help that buyer understand the importance of working exclusively with you, we want to make it so that there's absolutely no question after they see this presentation and all the other things that accompany it, that they're going to want to work with you, and your competitors are going to be left, knocked out cold. I know that's not in the line of cooperative real estate and the rest of it, but let's be honest. That's what all of you want, right? You want an unfair advantage in the marketplace. Now, Julie wants to add something, but I wanted Julie, sorry for.
That's fine.
Now, here's the next level to all of this. We're going to make it so that within the presentation, Julie and I know that a lot of you aren't going to ever learn how to present each of these pages at the same level, each of the USPs at the same level that Julie and I are. So we're going to do it for you. We're going to create audios that you can play for the consumer that is going to explain why they want to work with you and what the advantage to working with you is, and why you offer a communications guarantee, why you offer a love it or leave it guarantee, why you offer all the other things we're going to be explaining to you when this product is released. And that is going to be a real lifesaver for a lot of you, because you're never going to actually have to learn how to master how to frankly sell that particular USP to the consumer. We're going to do it for you. But we're not done there. And this is what I'm really excited about, if you can't tell. We're really excited because we're going to also be making it so that we are going to be virtually presenting all these individual pages for you. There's 23 altogether. We're going to be, now not most consumers are only going to be interested in about 4 or 5 of the pages, so don't worry. Some of them just aren't going to care about much more than the 4 or 5 pages.
Think of it as a toolkit.
Yeah, it's a toolkit, right? You don't need, exactly, thank you. It's like a toolbox, right? You're going to fix a loose screw. You're not going to get out a wrench. You're going to get out a Phillips screwdriver kind of thing. Right, that's what this is. So we're going to make it so that there'll be a virtual Tim or a virtual Julie that's actually going to present the page in the form of a video. So someone's going to click on, for example, your love it or leave it guarantee, and Julie is going to be there in video, AI of Julie, presenting with her voice, presenting the exact content. Now, we're not done yet. So we're going to be able to present the content and all of it for you. You're not going to have to worry about mastering any of this. We're going to do it for you. Frankly, you don't have time to master it. We want you guys out there helping people buy real estate and making money for yourself and your family. But we're not done. Now this is going to come in the next 60 days. We're going to make it so that you can be the presenter of each of these pages. There's going to be an AI version of you that's going to present these pages. And what the AI is going to do is use the script that Julie and I will create for each of the videos when we're doing them for the initial run of AI. And you're going to be the one that's going to be presenting it. So instead of having a virtual Julie present the love it or leave it guarantee, there's going to be a virtual Bob presenting the love it or leave it guarantee using the exact words in Bob's voice that we had previously done for the Julie version. You guys get it? So we're taking the whole coaching and training industry to the next level. We're not going to hope and pray that you guys master the art and science of the material that we coach all of you to use. We're going to start doing it for you. And this is the reason I think Ethical Real Estate Professional and all its guises with all of its new products and programs is going to revolutionize the coaching and training industry. Now, here's the deal. Because of frankly, this is a coaching program, when we release this program, which I'm hoping we're going to do in the next couple weeks, if not sooner, Julie and I are personally going to be coaching this program as in ourselves. They're semi-private group calls. We're going to do them once a week for a month. It may be longer, but I think we can accomplish all of it in a month. And that's going to be included in this program. Now, the program is going to be only available to the first 100 agents that sign up. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is not going to be a cheap program. We're still working on pricing. We're trying to determine, essentially what an appropriate price for something like this would be, because this is very expensive for us to provide for you, as you can imagine. So the program is going to be available within the next couple weeks, we think. In order for you to be on the list, be invited to be with the first 100 agents who are becoming ethical real estate professional agents, you're going to have to text the word buyer, B-U-Y-E-R, to 47372. Text the word buyer, B-U-Y-E-R, to 47372. And then you're going to be on the list. And what we're going to do is we're going to send out a text to everyone who's, basically put their name on the interest list. And the first 100 that sign up, well, you're off to the races. And then we'll probably open the doors again. I'm going to guess 60 to 90 days after that. And then we're going to allow another 100 agents to join. So that's the way that we're going to roll this out. We're going to allow 100 agents to join every single session. So definitely get on the list. This is going to be something that's going to, frankly, give a lot of you confidence again, because, oh my gosh, the amount of fear that's in the marketplace right now and utter confusion. It is a tragic, let's just use real words. It is a tragic shit show of miscommunication and misinformation that's happening right now. And if you're a broker, if you're a team leader, if you're an individual agent, this is going to be the cure to answer all the agents' questions and problems, because what it frankly is going to do is solve everything with one designation, and it's going to give those agents confidence again. It's going to give you confidence again. So again, very excited about this. I know a lot of you don't like us, essentially pitching our own products on the podcast. You want us to get back to our regular scheduled programming, but it's really important that you understand that we are hearing you. We are responding to what we're hearing you tell us that you need in this marketplace. So please, respect the effort that we put towards this, and do put your name on the list. Text the word buyer, B-U-Y-E-R, to 47372.
All right, so today we're talking about what to do now and what not to do now as you all find yourselves navigating the new normal. And as you know, I was on a very long continuing education class yesterday. And one of the things that was discussed, because this particular class series was the Legal 1 and Legal 2 updates in Texas. So of course, you might imagine this topic came out. And what I observed was agents knew going into the commission sharing lawsuit change date, August 17th, that they knew the basic stuff, right? They're going to have to get a signature on the buyer side. And they knew that they're going to have to get something before they show, all right, we got that. But here's what they didn't realize that seems to have hit them like a Mack truck. Your competition is what Tim just laid out for you, other agents. That's true. On the buyer side, which that in itself is unusual. But and I'm going to get especially to point number 5, Tim, it is not just that. It is also the buyer being unrepresented by themselves. It's going to the listing agent direct, it's going to the open house agent, and it's going to the new build rep. So you're competing not just agent to agent, but on those 4 levels as well.
Well, what you're saying is what I'm hearing feedback about too, because the buyer agents out there are doing such a piss poor job of explaining these new, call them rules, with regards to exclusive buyers agencies. The buyers who still want to buy are confused. And what they're doing is they're going directly to the listing agents. They're going directly to the build reps. They're passing over the buyers agents. And I mentioned this on our podcast yesterday. Katie Moulton in Iowa. She wants to be called Kate now, I believe, but it's Katie. Sorry, Katie. I've known you for a long time. I've known you forever, so it's Katie forever. Anyway, so she sent me this spreadsheet that essentially someone has created that's showing what all the individual properties for sale are and what all the individual co-ops that are being offered, because someone's taking agents are taking the time to call the listing agent, and then they're updating this open spreadsheet. It might be a private spreadsheet, but you guys get the gist of it. So there is going to be information that's going to be circulating around about what the commissions are. But remember what we told you guys is, as listing agents, just in the public comments section of the MLS, just simply put seller will consider all concessions. Seller will consider all concessions does include a buyer agent's commission. Again, we're going to educate you guys on all of this in the new program that we're coming out with. I had another call this morning, Julie, with Dan Lesniak, and he and I were talking about this very topic. And Dan and Carrie Shaw, they're some of the top agents in the country, some of the top agents at eXp Realty. And what people don't quite understand is that you can finance the buyer's agent commission as a concession in the actual buyer's financing something like 95% of the time, as long as it appraises.
Right.
So in other words, if, long story short, if worst case scenario, the seller's not willing to pay it, which for the most part, they are going to be willing to pay it. Why wouldn't they? As long as their net's the same and they're happy with what they walk away with, they're going to be willing to pay it. But if they're not, as far as a concession to the buyer, right, then you can ask the buyer to roll it into their financing. And that is able to be done through government-backed financing, which is like 95% of all the loans out there. So that means that as long as it appraises, the loans that are out there are allowed for a 6% in concessions. In other words, that you can roll in whatever your buyer agent commission is. Dan was saying he thinks that in his marketplace, you're going to see people asking for 4 or 5% buyer concessions.
Yes.
Because, why wouldn't you? If it can be
Exactly.
paid that way. Exactly. So anyway, what will happen as the market sorts out these new rules with regards to buyer's agency are going to be not what any of us can predict, but what is absolutely for sure is you're going to have to start treating your buyers like listing agents have been treating their sellers forever. You're going to have to compete. You're going to have to present. You're going to have to show value. You're going to have to take a more professional, organized approach to earning that business. It's not going to be like it was before, where a buyer agent commission was basically an entitlement to the transaction, where it was just automatically assumed you were going to get a certain percent.
That's right. And they can get the notes, because I'm going to fast forward to lead with this don't, because that's the most important don't that we're going to talk about today.
Right. So the notes, and we have a lot of notes from today's podcast, they're available at harrisrealestatedaily.com. harrisrealestatedaily.com is our daily newsletter. That's the only place where our notes, and sometimes we mention links and different websites and things we're using for reference material. A lot of you guys are writing podcasts and blogs, and you're doing stuff for social media. Use our notes. It's a shortcut to essentially save yourself time. We spend, I can't say it's something we egregiously do, but each of us probably spend, I would say, 2 to 3 hours a day creating content, not just for our products, but also for all of you on this podcast. It's something at this point that we find actually enjoyable to do, because it's keeping us frosty for all of you. But it's also making it so that we're ourselves going to be able to provide you guys higher levels of service. But bottom line is, use our notes. Don't take the time to research all this. Just, leverage what we've done. Go to harrisrealestatedaily.com, harrisrealestatedaily.com, and sign up for the free newsletter. All right, so the notes are available. I just told you where. So we're going to skip the first 3 points because we've already talked about them. We're going to go right to point number 4, and I think this really is the most important point.
Actually, point number 5, but that's okay. So point number 5, and you guys can get the notes.
Let's go to point number 4.
You want this one? Okay,
Yes.
Number 4. We're talking about do's and don'ts. Point number 4, don't try to skirt the system. Explanation of this. The new rules allow you to post seller concessions on your website for your listings. However, you cannot create any database for local agents to enter their seller concessions, nor can you create a code or alert to other agents to a possible concession through the MLS. There's been a lot of discussion on that.
So let's talk about that. If you personally have a database like the one that Katie showed me of a spreadsheet, because you personally have called those sellers, that's obviously your personal work product,
That's
right? What Julie is referring to are essentially third parties that are creating essentially shadow MLSs where agents can go and check what the co-ops are. Evidently, the understanding is those are going to be somehow taboo or against the rules. I mean, this will all be worked out through the law. Realistically, I don't know if that really works with the, freedom of speech,
We'll see.
All that, but we'll see. It doesn't matter. We're not in that business. We are on the helping you guys help people and make money business. So yes, if you want to create your own database, a spreadsheet, maybe you share it amongst your team, whatever.
That's
obviously
yours that you've created. That's not you sending it to other agents saying, hey, sign on to this and put in your commission here.
Right.
The current legal thing on this is they're saying attempts to undermine the new rules could result in the forfeiture of your legal protection under the settlement. And for more on this, of course, you can refer to the NIR settlement facts. We've been referring to that all through all of our podcasts.
I do remember the legal settlement was between MLSs. It was between brokers, right? And you are part of the MLS, so you are party to that settlement as well. But that's really what the focus is on the MLSs and the brokers. So if brokers and MLSs started creating their own shadow MLSs where the co-op commissions are going to be listed, then that's obviously skirting, which we will strongly suggest none of you actually do. There's no real benefit of being the canary in the coal mine as far as testing what the boundaries are with regards to this settlement, because even with the new agreements in place, even with the new guidelines, guys, there's plenty of opportunity. You shouldn't be fearful of this. Just work within the new rules. Don't play games. Don't look for shortcuts. Learn how to ultimately present your value to the consumers. That's all you really have to do at the end of the day.
Well, that's right. And we had a podcast about the simplification of all of this. If you're on the buyer side, ask for concessions. Work it out. It's just another level of negotiation that we're putting into the bin. All right, point number 5 as far as our don'ts. Don't attempt to have your buyers sign the buyer agency contract without a proper presentation first. Remember, the definition of a close, as in getting their signature, is the logical ending to a great presentation. Do not attempt to have your buyers sign the buyer agency contract via email, text, or any other method that isn't the result of a formal presentation. Don't try to do it on the fly right before they happen to want to see a house. There was example after example of that in the classes I took yesterday. Agents complaining about these buyers that have been in their pipeline. They're online. They see a house they got to see this afternoon. But what does the agent do? Before I can show you that, they text over the agreement. You got to sign this and I'll meet you at the house.
Stop there for a second, Jules. Imagine if you're listing a property and you go list the property and you don't put any commission down for the seller. So you're basically working for the seller for free. You're doing the open houses. You're doing the marketing material. You're spending hours and hours and hours with that, that seller trying to get their home sold. And, there is no expectation for them paying you anything because, after all, you had no contract. And then all of a sudden an offer comes in, or maybe you generate your own offer from your own buyer. And then all of a sudden you fling on that seller that they now owe you whatever percent for the sale of the property. Don't you think they're going to be a little pissed off? Don't you think that's going to upset the apple cart and probably cause them to just throw their arms up in the air? Not necessarily because they don't want to take the offer and make the math work, but because the nature of the lack of professionalism and respect you showed towards them and trying to essentially trick them, as that's what their perception is, into signing something that's essentially, seemingly fairly egregious from their perspective, because you did not present to them, because you were not professional. You're not going to get it signed. In addition to that, you're going to lose them as a client. And that's what we are continuously seeing in the marketplace right now.
Well, that's right. And in all 3 cases that we heard about yesterday, what happened was the buyer said, I don't know what you're asking me to do. I'm not comfortable with this, but I do want to see that house today. So remember, this was on listed homes. What do? They go directly to the listing agent, right?
Yep.
So be careful. That is it's almost like being that unprofessional. And I realize you guys are freaking out about this. It's actually driving some of what you used to call your buyers away from you. It's not bringing them towards you like a great presentation will.
Julie, imagine if you're working, a lot of agents, work with prominently their own centers of influence and past clients.
Sure.
So you're working with someone you've known forever, you've done transactions with. They basically are they're accustomed to doing real estate with you a certain way. And that certain way hasn't been signing anything when working with you as a buyer. Now, all of a sudden, this is a person you've known forever. All of a sudden, you're, flinging something on them that basically says you now owe me 3% of, or 2.5%, or whatever the commission is, of whatever you end up buying. You're going to probably lose them as a client, and you're probably going to lose them as a friend. You want to create awkwardness in relationships. There's a way to do it by not being professional.
100%. Okay, so what should you be doing now? Number 1, do meet in person with every buyer, prospect, or client. If they're not in your town or your state, you can do it over Zoom. Even if they're not your best friend or a 5-time repeat client, and to your point, Tim, maybe especially if they are, meet them in person. Your buyers may have to pay all or some of your fee out of pocket, and this will not happen without a buyer presentation that focuses on your value, exceptional search methods that you do. We talk about that in the presentation, beyond what they can do on their own, negotiation skills, offer to win ratio, guarantees, everything that you get in the ethical real estate professional buyer side presentation.
Do you actually believe what you said when you wrote that they'll have to, what percent will actually have to pay out of pocket? Do you actually believe that?
I put it that way because legally that's true. Okay. I said all or some, and I said may. But do I personally believe that? Based on the 10 or so days that we're into this thing, I think that the deals that are going in contract right now, by and large, are pretty standard issue. The seller's expectation is that they are going to pay something. We have, 150 years of tradition on this. That's not to say that it's baked in or that it's a set fee, but there is an expectation. So I think there will be some cases where it's negotiated harder than others. If you're on the buyer side and you're asking for closing costs and you're coming in under list price and you're throwing it all at the wall to see what sticks, that's obviously going to be different than if you come in full list price plus, 3% or whatever you want to call it.
It's entering into a balanced market. Some markets are going to be a buyer's market.
That's true.
The simple fact is, is that there is going to be very easily proved, numerical evidence that offering a buyer's agent commission is going to cause the house to sell faster in a shorter period of time for more net to the seller. How do I know that's true? Because it carries it. First of all, it's logical, but second of all, because if you want to know how something's going to react, follow the incentive structure. Now, so I want you to think about FSBOs, for example. FSBOs sell for significantly less and take longer to sell if they sell at all. That's the facts about for sale by owner.
Time and again.
Proven time and time again. Well, if you lower the incentive structure in a sale of anything, you're going to lose the sellability of that home. Now you're going to say, "Oh, Tim, you're a proponent of steering. You're suggesting that buyer's agents basically look for the houses that pay the most commission, and somehow they're going to magically convince their buyers to, buy one house over the other." And no, that's not exact. Now I'm not even saying anything remote to that. What I'm saying is, after a buyer signs an exclusive buyer's agency contract, they are going to have the responsibility of, essentially paying that buyer agent commission. And if there's some seller that's resolute and not paying any buyer agent commission, even if numerically it works out to their benefit, you just have the 0.0001% that for some reason the person just says, "I'm not going to pay a buyer's agent no matter what." It'll never happen, but let's just say it was. You're going to see that the buyers who otherwise would have wanted to buy that house, because they do have a financial obligation to pay for the service their buyer agent has provided, and now they're going to have to figure out a way to pay for it themselves. They're not going to buy that house. They're going to buy something else. It's not going to be the agents, dear listener, that are steering buyers to buy one house over the other. The buyers themselves are going to want to look for sellers that are willingly providing concessions to the buyer. And yes, that will probably include buyer agent commission. That's the way the market's going to sort this out, which means we're going to be right back where we were with regard. But I do think, and I know we got some shit for me saying this the other day, but I do believe it's true. There needed to be more transparency on how buyer agents.
Agree.
Yeah. I don't think that the nature of this litigation, you judge a person not by what they say, by what the results they generate. Mm-hmm. I think the results that's going to generate as a result of this is going to be better for the industry. It's going to cause force buyers agents to be more professional. It's going to give better optics on, essentially how the industry works. I personally think that's a win for the industry, long-term, not short-term.
I would agree with that, especially long-term, not short-term. Short-term, as with any change, will be some hiccups that we'll all work through together.
Well, hiccups are going to last. It's going to be something a little bit more chronic.
Temporary dumpster fire?
Yeah, okay, I mean, that's what we're experiencing. But it's not that difficult. It's difficult for you if you've only been in the industry for, say, 10 years or less. If all of the people you're going to for advice has only been in the industry for, say, 15 years or less, and if you've only been in the industry during a hot seller's market, if you've only been in the industry when it had become prolific to buy buyer leads, and there was always an entitlement to a buyer agent commission. In other words, if you're going to for advice and guidance and coaching from people that don't actually know what the hell to do themselves and they're learning on the job, you're going to be experiencing a lot of headwinds, and you might not even survive the shift that we're experiencing in the industry. That's just a reality. I mean, wake up. That's what's happening to a lot of you. You're listening to people that don't know what to do, and they're not going to tell you they don't know what to do. They're just going to give you bad advice, and then you're going to be following, you're going to be off course, and who knows where you'll end up.
Or worse, they're just still complaining about it, right? So let's stop that. All right, another do update your contracts and marketing materials. Your broker, your local MLS or realtor association may already have new contracts and forms ready.
Okay, and we've already done that for you in the Ethical Real Estate Professional designation that we're going to be coming out with soon. So that is going to include a one-time showing agreement, a new exclusive buyer agency contract. We're including all the FAQs. We're getting a lot of this, by the way. We're not rewriting this. Julie and I are attorneys. We're getting a lot of this from eXp Realty, who've done a phenomenal job leading the industry with their formage, and from the National Association of Realtors.
And that's for all brokerages.
Right.
You don't have to be XP to use those forms or the forms that we're going to present in the presentation. Okay.
Yeah, I really do think it needs to be noted that the leadership that eXp Realty provided for the industry is stunning. They went and spent the money, spent the time to create these essentially universal forms, and they gave them away to the industry. They open sourced all these documents, and there's still brokerages that are still trying to figure out what the hell to do. Use eXp Realty's forms. If you're listening to us right now and you're a team, a broker, whatever you are, and you're wanting to know what the hell to do, just use eXp Realty's forms. If you're an MLS trying to figure out different, different ways of going about doing things, just use the XP Realty's forms because they've already, I can't say they've been legally approved, but they've been tested. They have been approved by some consumer organizations that are in alignment with this, frankly, the DOJ and the plaintiff's attorneys. So the point is that you're probably going to be more than okay if you just use the XP Realty's forms.
Yes, and they've been out there for quite some time. They're not scrambling and throwing it together.
And I've read them. They're super simple.
They are very simple. It's a pretty common request we get from our listeners and from our coaching clients is, I'm without forms, what do I do? So we've been helping them with that.
Yep.
All right. Do reach out to your database to answer questions. Set a goal to reach 100% of your past clients, friends, and prospects to see their questions, to hear their questions about the new rules and practices. Use your Ford script, family, occupation, recreation, dreams. That's your conversation starter to keep the conversation factual and positive. Don't be one of these agents who thought they were, quote, your buyers because they've been in your database forever when they want to go see a house this weekend and you have not had this conversation. Don't get caught like that.
Well, again, the best way to go about that is just if you do come across somebody who's, I don't think you will that frequently, to be honest with you. I can't imagine a scenario where you're going to have a buyer who's going to be, some of you will experience this where they're going to be completely confused and kind of enthusiasts of the new litigation or new rules and are going to think somehow that's going to make it so that, well, the sellers are going to lower the fee by whatever your commission was and I'll just save the price. That's never going to save the money. That's never going to happen. Sellers are not going to lower. Nothing's going to change from the seller's perspective. It just isn't. That's not the way free markets work. But yeah, if you come across somebody that you're, wanting to start working with exclusively, you definitely want to send them your ethical real estate professional buyer presentation. Don't give it out to everyone. Give it to the folks that you've pre-qualified. By the way, our complete buyer pre-qualification form is part of the program. And then after you pre-qualified them for motivation and realistic expectations, and obviously your lender for financial ability, then send them your presentation. And then they're going to want to work exclusively with you. It's called a system. We've created it for you, so you don't have to worry about it.
Exactly. Do obtain, practice, and polish your new ethical real estate professional buyer presentation. Again, buyers won't sign if they don't understand your value. And we are aware, I'm going to edit that a little bit. We are aware that some of you haven't been doing a presentation because you're asking yourself, gosh, what is it that I do? Oh, well, I provide them search things. They can do that online by themselves. If your answer is the same as everybody else's answer, or worse, something that sounds like what the buyer can do themselves, everybody needs this, right? So make sure that you are doing the ethical real estate professional. Look at the title, ethical. Every buyer wants to work with an ethical agent. Professional, you're upping your game by having a presentation. And to your earlier point, Tim, I think that most of the people in their database are past clients, they're repeat clients, friends. They probably have a very high level of trust with you. The problem that I'm seeing, with feedback from the coaches and coaching clients in the CE class is there's still too many negative headlines out there because this is still a hot topic. When a past client who you're talking to because you bothered to call them says, oh, I hear that there's, commissions have come down and maybe that means prices are going to come down. It's always because they saw some headline, they saw some, MSNBC or something little report. It's not based in them just not trusting you. It's because they read some headline that's making them say, what? How's that going to work? And that's where your call to them comes in your presentation.
But be respectful to their question. But if they're not a real, ready to go buyer, you do not,
It's just a discussion.
It's just a discussion. Don't spend a lot of time on that. Honestly.
And don't make it worse.
And don't start essentially, being on a soapbox about it. That's not your job. Your job is to help them, if they're an actual client, to buy a house and to make the process as seamless as possible. That's really ultimately they're paying for. It is also worth knowing and understanding rather. There has never been a seller in the history of the world. I can't say that. That's maybe too strong of a statement. But let's just say, find me a seller in the history of the world outside of an investor where the net price to them is the most important thing. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but most people, if you really, drill down, they're going to put hassle as the most important thing that they're wanting to basically not have to deal with when it comes to selling their home. It's stressful. They're paying you to deal with the stress. That's what you're getting paid for. So yes, it's going to be timing of the move. It's going to be, all the hassle factor. It's going to be the stress. It's going to be the showings or all the things. But the top 5 things that a seller is most focused on or most, essentially concerned about, and that's going to be probably number 4 or 5. They're willing to pay to have the first 3 or 4 things not be so omnipresent or not be an issue in their lives. That's the reason that service professionals in general exist, because you're essentially removing from their lives the friction that comes with buying and selling real estate.
That reminds me, something that you didn't mention that you especially worked on yesterday, which was actually bullet pointing, if you were to do this yourself, Mr. Seller, I think, or Mr. Buyer, here's the time allotment, here's what I actually do. These are all of the different things that actually go into buying or selling a house. I think people don't necessarily go to that on their own, and we're giving you that as part of the ethical real estate professional so that you can have that discussion. I saw an interesting thing that said, well, why don't I just hire a real estate attorney? Because that's going to cost you X, right? You're still going to have some expenditure. Well, I can find a house on my own. Well, how many hours in the day are you going to spend doing that? And are you going to find something that's not already in contract on Zillow? So that reminded me of that. And we have most of that. Okay, so I'm going to go to point number 5. Establish yourself as a knowledgeable professional, knowledgeable and confident real estate specialist. So, for example, be the leader in your marketplace. One of our EXP family, Mike Urban, is doing a killer job at this. He's doing database outreach. He's posting on social media. He's engaging about this topic. He's doing Facebook Live sessions, educational videos, and of course, all of you can do lunches, brunches, coffee meetings, etc. Don't hide out. That was another big theme that I saw as I had over 100 agents on the Zoom screen in my CE, was agents who don't know what to do have a tendency not to do anything. That means you're hiding out. You're not going to do any business when you're hiding out. So there's where we're at. And if you'd like to jump in, I know that you're updating yourself right now.
I am.
So this has been do's and don'ts, what we want you to do, what we don't want you to do, so that you can navigate through the new normal. Change is already here. Stop complaining and freaking out online. That's not productive. You can either resist or embrace the industry's inevitable evolution and upgrade, as we discussed. So start prepping your business for the new settlement rules today. There's no escaping that. Take advantage of the opportunities that we're providing you with ethical real estate professional.
In terms of being opportunistic,
Yes.
In terms of thinking like an entrepreneur,
Sure.
And in terms of basically knowing that you're in business to make a profit, with all of the uncertainty that's happening out there amongst buyers, and with all the buyers essentially ditching their buyer's agents because their buyer's agents are doing a zero job as far as presenting why they should work with them exclusively. There's a big opportunity to, guess what, pick up a lot of buyers. So if you are wanting to, do buyer sides, there are a lot of homeless buyers out there that are looking for a place to land. And how many of those buyers actually have listings to sell? How many of the transactions out there that would have been going to your competitors had they actually been, professionalizing their approach to working with the buyers? How many of those, consumers are going to be looking for a new service professional? I guarantee you the number is not a small number. How are you going to make it so that they find you? You absolutely want to consider becoming a member of Ethical Real Estate Professional. Do this now. This is your only homework for today's podcast. Text the word BUYER, B-U-Y-E-R, to 47372. Text the word BUYER, B-U-Y-E-R, to 47372. A lot of you are messaging us over on Instagram and other places, making sure you're on the list. And I'm telling all of you the same thing. You got to get on the list. Everybody's going to be treated equally. I know a lot of you want to, join this program right away because you need the presentation like yesterday. And I get it, and I respect that. But we want to make it so that when we actually release this to our agents, that it's going to be something that we are confident is going to make it so that you guys, again, have an extremely high level of confidence. Because, our job is to educate you, motivate you, and get you into action. So your action from today's podcast is to text the word BUYER, B-U-Y-E-R, to 47372. That you will be on the list. You'll be invited. There's over 500 people on the list now. Did I tell you that?
No, that's awesome.
Over 500 people on the list now. We're only going to have availability for the first 100 of you to actually join the program. And then we're going to close the program again. And then Julie and I are going to personally coach through semi-private group calls, all of the first 100 over the, I think it's probably we're going to be able to probably do it in 4 weeks, along with all the program, the whole entire product. We're going to coach you guys how to use this. And then we're going to maybe make some changes based on the first 100 agents that we've had enroll in the program, and then we're going to release it again, and we're going to do that continuously. But we're never just going to make this something that anyone can buy anytime on the website, because this is a coaching program, and this is very laborious from the factor of, when was the last time you heard Julie and I doing something like this ourselves? Like never, right? But this is how important we know that this is, and we want to make it so that it's right. And we don't want to delegate this. We're going to do it ourselves so that when we essentially are at a point where we feel like this is a done product, which will hopefully be this year, then we're going to move on to the next program underneath Ethical Real Estate Professional. But anyway, that is the look forward to what Julie and I are focused on. Please do text the word buyer, BUYER, to 47372. In the meantime, do consider sharing this podcast with other real estate agents in your marketplace. Do consider giving them the information that is essentially, for a lot of you, it's rebuilding your confidence in the industry. Once you rebuild your confidence, you're then going to rebuild your bank account because you're able to help people at a high level. Help us help others at a high level. Do share this podcast with other folks. We certainly appreciate it. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, and we'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.